Call this meeting to order and we'll do roll call. Jessica Crosby. Here. Dale Johnson.
Here.
Tony Corpy. Not here yet. Bruce Raboin.
Here.
Tina Sather.
Here.
Roxanne Skogstad-Deach here. Joanne Smith.
Here.
Kevin Grover.
Here. Tony's here.
Tony Corpy.
Here.
Okay. We're not even saying Mitch now, huh?
No, he's off for sure.
Okay.
I didn't know we get a new one.
Well, no,
He's off the hook.
He's completely done.
Okay. All right, we'll say the pledge.
Retired, yeah.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
If I can just
Okay,
a
discussion.
couple comments here. I just want to make sure number 12 was added, I believe sometime today, sometime since this actually got published. So I wanted to make sure everyone saw it.
Oh, I saw that on mine.
Well, it's on there now, but
Yeah.
it was added late. Tim.
Oh.
If you looked at it
I
too
read it
early.
before.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that's noted. The other question I had is we have a 7 o'clock referendum meeting. And I didn't think about it until today. If the whole board wants to stay, we should add that, just as part of the meeting, not close the meeting, then we can all be here. If, only 2 people planned on staying, we don't have to have part of the meeting. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I guess I'm just kind of asking who.
I'm staying.
I'll stay. Raise your hand if you're
Well,
staying.
okay, so then, I'm
We're
gonna say,
staying.
at the end of the meeting, we're not gonna adjourn, if someone has to leave, that's fine or whatever, and
So
we'll
hold
adjourn
this.
whenever that's done.
Okay,
So those are the only 2 changes, if you will.
all right.
So as long as that's
Any
okay.
further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Open forum, we have Jim Jorgensen about Purple Pride Committee to speak with regard to the Bronco Arena sound system.
Wherever you'd
Welcome.
like, if you wanna stand, if you wanna sit,
This will work.
perfect.
Thank you. I'm representing the subcommittee with Mike Lemio, Jim Knapp, and myself. We've been asked to look at securing funding to support replacement of the sound system in the arena. Obviously not a new issue. It's well past its useful life, and it's kind of degraded to the point where you really can't hear much in there anymore. We received 2 bids last December, one from LBC Corporation in Duluth for $80,000. They were proposing to replace everything except the speakers. They wanted to refurbish and reuse the speakers. And from NLFX in Bemidji, they bid $73,000 for a complete refurbishment, including speakers, and that was the bid favored by Mike Plessy, from the technical director from the school system. Confirmed with NLFX, that bid is still good. If we wanted to get the job done before season opener, they have 3 big jobs going on now, one in War Road, Alexandria, and one in Nashville, Tennessee, but they could fit us in September or October to finish it in 2 weeks, so we could get it done before season opener if we wanted. We've also identified a pretty substantial amount of the funding in advance. I think you've got the details for that you'll talk about later.
Everyone has it in their
Yep.
packet, and we'll actually deal with this.
So I think we're in a good position where we could do this with very little risk that the funds wouldn't come back to the school.
Okay, good. Thank you very
Awesome,
much.
thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
And typically, I mean, if anyone has a question, I mean, we typically don't go back and forth. Like I say, it is later on. But I don't know if you're sticking around for it or if you're taking off, your call.
I think we
certainly
all know
don't
it's a
have to
definite
stay.
need, so.
Yeah, we all agree we need it.
Okay.
All right, well, if there's any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Very much appreciate it.
This sounds like this.
Okay. And then now, the Alting update by Matt Johnson.
Yeah.
Please.
And so Matt was introduced to everyone except Tony Corpy and Joanne
Hi.
Smith prior. We were talking prior to the meeting. So Kim is online as well.
She
Is that
is.
correct?
I have her on speakerphone here, so Kim is the salesperson, but also superintendent that we have working on our staff to work with districts.
So it's all yours to give an update from the spring testing.
Yeah,
or
so
assessment?
I guess I'll stand up too if you set this precedent. So you all have this report in front of you right now. And this is a report as a result of the health encounter for the students age 12 and older. I don't know if you're completely familiar with this program. Would you like me to go over it in brief?
There was a presentation, when we
Okay.
agreed to go on, a little synopsis went through.
Okay, so essentially, this is a qualified health encounter for every student, and every student meets with a qualified mental health professional. So students in a group enter into, in this case, the cafeteria, and they all have their names on a system, a private medical device, that they can use to engage with their encounter, their health encounter. It starts with a fully informed consent. So under statute, students 12 years old and older are the consenting parties. So they are consenting for their own health care. This is a HIPAA-qualified encounter. So their information, their personal information, is not shared with anybody without their full consent. So this information is completely private. So it empowers them and gives them the agency to openly share anything that they want about their mental well-being, their safety, their concerns. We ask them about depression, suicidal ideation, self-harm, safety in the school, any conflicts in the district or with the community, any difficulties or struggles that they're having. And as they go through this process, a certain percentage of them will start to indicate medical concern, and they will begin to interact with the qualified health providers. Those that rise to the level of concern, so these are scorings on standardized behavioral health interactions. It's like a PHQ-2 and a PHQ-9 and GAD-7. These are the medical terms for depression and stress and so forth. But these begin to initiate discussions with providers. And then these students complete this session in about a 15-minute class period, and they go about the rest of their day. A subset of those students who scored with some level of concern will be brought back into a direct one-on-one intervention. So this is their entitlement in healthcare, is they provided their consent for an engagement, an encounter, and the next step in that process is that intervention face-to-face with a medical provider. When they sit down with the medical provider, they dive deeper into what that individual student shared. You shared that you have some, despondence, or you're sad, or what's going on? Tell me more. Are you seeing anybody? Have you told anybody? Do you have someone in the district you work with? Do you have somebody outside of the school that you work with? Or most of the time it's, I haven't shared this with anybody. And then it's, okay, tell me why not? Well, I'm concerned that my parents have enough on their plate. They don't need to hear about my problems, or I'm worried that I'm going to be a burden. You also find very concerning things like, I'm thinking about killing myself. I have a plan. I know where my mother's gun is. I know where the bullets are. I'm worried that it might be messy. I wonder if I should drown myself. And this is things go into some of these kids' minds. So you see in many districts, as many as 30% of the kids have a medical grade of moderate to severe depression. Sometimes we've seen as much as 20 to 21% of the kids with suicidal ideation and self-harm. And you look at some of the numbers here. I know some of you have a medical background, behavioral health, and mental health background. All of you are aware of these concerns. This is really a health epidemic nationally. This is a big, big national problem. A lot of our kids, it's not just COVID. COVID has exacerbated something that pre-existed that was getting worse. It's not something I experienced that broadly when I was in school here, but we're seeing a change, a significant change in how our youth sees themselves and their future and what their needs are to be met. This is a problem I was just sharing with Beth. We work closely with, first off, we work with HHS. The Federal Health and Human Services recognizes this as the only qualified health service that works in districts right now. But we're talking to Blue Cross Blue Shield this morning, and they're sharing with us that the cost from onset of behavioral health concern to the point where they're getting qualified treatment, that's a span on average of 11 years. People suffering in silence with their concerns is $1.8 million additional dollars per individual is what it's costing our economy. And so really this new front line are these school districts. And really the areas where they have the hardest difficulty, places like International Falls or Lanesboro or Grand Meadow. These are places where there are not the resources in the community. There's difficulty for these kids to be open and honest because they know the people in the community. They're afraid that they'll be exposed with their health concerns, and so they have to have some proactive way to get the help that they need. If you take a look at what we found, you see that you have some levels of concern in depression, not the worst we've seen. You have some concerns that you could take some action on about kids who have proactively told us they feel unsafe in the school. We saw higher levels amongst the 8th graders and 7th, 8th, and 9th graders saying, I feel afraid in the district. I feel afraid when I'm here. I feel it's not secure. I'm concerned about my safety and my classmates' safety. So those are things that you can take into consideration as you look at, okay, what are these kids worried about? What can make them feel better when they're inside the confines of this building and feel safe? A secondary one that I would be a little concerned about is up to 34% of them who indicated they needed some help didn't realize there are resources within the district that they should and could reach out to. They were not aware of that process and how to reach out to the people here to help them. So that's another interesting consideration. The data that you have here is actual and accurate. So every individual student, and I mean, this question came up early on. One of the questions, well, what if there's an 8th grader and he's a snarky kid? There is a system where we can see when they're messing around, and every one of them meets with a provider. And then I didn't know, I was just screwing around. Well, that's not on the numbers. The numbers you see are the ones that have been 3-time validated. So the numbers that you see are the most accurate numbers we can get from your students. And these are numbers that you can act upon and use in ways for curriculum, for adjustments to help meet the needs of these kids who have openly shared what their concerns are, to help these kids understand the resources that you have available inside of this building and how they can have the privacy to get the help that they need. And also maybe to get some more budgets available, right? You can use this for your grant applications for the state and for the Department of Education. So there's a lot of things you can do with this information. So I was just talking to Kim, I got Kim Balcasper on the phone, and she was mentioning that one of the things that she wanted to share was these kids were really great. These kids wanted to share. They really wanted to talk about what their concerns are. They're worried about each other. They care about each other. That's a really great sign. Kim, did you want to comment at all?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I'd like to commend Superintendent Grover and Principal Everson for recognizing the need to have all things come in, and that was really the first step. And then when we did spend 4 full days on campus, and you know, the first day there was a few unexpected challenges, and we got through those. Sometimes that happens in districts when different things are going on, but we really had a solid 4 days, and it was very productive, and the students got what they needed, and so we were grateful for that, and the report really will show you that. So again, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this with your district.
And I'm just going to throw out, and I think the board's aware, we did have a rocky start that day one, and I think most are aware, and I'll commend Matt and Kim. Yeah, it was some tough discussions day one if we were coming back. Day 2, 3, and 4 went as they, I'm going to say, should have.
Smoothly the next
You
day.
know, and so that being said, I mean, I recommend going forward. Obviously, you have data now. It's what are
We can
we
use
as a
it to support
district going to
something.
try doing?
Sorry, what happened, what was the rocky start? I
The rough
missed
start,
that.
what happened, and again, I was not, Tim could speak better to it, and Kim maybe, is we started on a Wednesday, a shortened day. And so ideally, or what they do is the kids take the assessment in the morning. And then if there's going to be, conversation, there's supposed to be conversation with parents. Well, they ran out of time before some of the kids got home because of a shortened day and a first start and whatever, and all of a sudden, second thing, we did something that we live and learn with is when the mailing went out, letting families know, it only went to the first family. So there were some kids going home to just say, dad and mom's the first family. Dad knew nothing about it, and all of a sudden, what do you mean you saw it? You talked to somebody, and again, there were a handful, 4 or 5, I don't know, and of course it spreads like wildfire. That being said, it was corrected, it was made very sure that, and again, the other thing that I think is very, the kids need to at least, and maybe they know more than I know or whatever, is when you get going, if your answers are going in a positive, a healthy manner, then it starts going into more of a career tech question. So everyone sits there and works for 15 minutes. And then when they start calling kids down, they call, I don't know if it's half, 2/3 that aren't coming down to be talked to medically. I don't know what the percentage, because they don't want it. If I was called to the office, I got an issue.
I think that's what a lot of.
You know, and so I mean, a little better, you know, hey, you know.
They all knew it anyway.
Yeah, they all.
Well, we did tell that, this is part of the program, is we tell the kids that we are going to take a sub-sample group and ask them about the experience.
Yeah.
And they won't know who is being asked about the experience and who is going to have further intervention. And so those kids would have to self-report that they were there for further intervention. They had the right to keep that private and say that I just was asked if I thought this was a helpful encounter. Or I was asked if I thought that this is something that was important to our district. And we did ask a number of those kids. And one of the real challenges when you're seeing a tight school day, we like to do these encounters starting with the first class period and conclude by about noon or earlier. Because after that first 50-minute period, we already have a list of kids who we begin to go into the interventions. But if it's a short day or there's some reason we don't get the kids into the room, we have a requirement, especially if they've indicated self-harm and suicidal ideation. We must see these kids. We cannot let them go home. We basically crack them open a little bit. We want to make sure that they have the next step that they're entitled to by statute and law to help them get to the next step. The point beyond that, and then this is the other interesting thing, that behavioral health does have a big stigma. I think you all know this, right? I mean, you can do a lot with people's kids, but if they think you're cracking their brain open, you're not doing anything but helping these kids share what's going on with them and keep them safer and healthier. That makes people nervous unto itself. And there's a little bit of a stigma in this community, but we see it in other communities too, where people are worried about that. But the other fear that most districts have is, we don't have a lot of services in town. What if we have too many kids who need help, and we overwhelm the local services? So you know, when All Thing takes on those services for the kids, we do not report that back to the district. But I can tell you 100% of those referrals were received and accepted and are utilized. The other half of it is you hear parents who are upset about something. Like you said, I didn't expect my kid, or my kid came home and said they're depressed. I don't know what the kid really said, but you know, that does happen, right? It's almost, I like to liken it to sex ed, right? My kid wasn't thinking about it, and then you brought it up, and now it's in the kid's head, right? It's like, no, it was there, you know, and it's going to, but that concern is natural, but it's ultimately, in the end, when we talk to these parents, they understand. And we had, sometimes people come in concerned about something. I'm upset about this, and if you talk to them for a couple minutes, say, well, I see what you're doing. I wish I would have understood better, now I get it. And all those positives, and I can tell you there's a lot of parents who are extremely appreciative. They're not the loud ones, right? But you guys know this. You know the district. You know exactly who's who, and that's just the way it works, right? And what matters, I think, more than anything, these kids, they need help. They were able to destigmatize, behavioral health. They care about each other, and the ones who got, needed help are now being seen and provided the help they're entitled to. And that will reflect on to a more stable and healthy student body in this coming year. And I think it's been very effective. Like I said, these kids were really good, and our staff was really happy to work with them. And and Kevin kind of downplayed, but the district helped too in the second day to adjust and make things work well. It was a collaboration, and I was really happy with how this thing turned out. I think we got into 4 days of excellent service.
Did you feel that any issue with parents was resolved?
You're using the term any?
Any negative issue with parents?
Upset
do you
parents.
feel upset
Individually
parents?
that we communicated with was resolved.
Okay.
Which ones we did not communicate with, or what people hold in their heads, I have no idea.
Right.
I think the other side of it too is this opportunity to help the parents of these students understand the importance of this. It's just as important as every other aspect of their health, is to understand that their mental health is okay and that they're safe. Another thing is that we know a little bit more about bullying. We know a little bit more about if there's kids making terroristic threats. These are real concerns that you want to have some visibility into and have taken the attempt to understand and mitigate. So
Maybe just for future reference, or to adapt it a little bit, maybe a couple notices to the home before it all happens, because I can tell you as a professional person, I deal with HIPAA every day, and I understand what you're saying. Well, the age of 12 is, that they can have everything private.
not everything,
Well, I know, but I know what you're saying.
but 16 and up.
Yes,
Well,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
As a mom,
Yeah. It's a different
you pull my
deal.
12-year-old in and start asking them if they're depressed and asking questions like that, and then nobody calls me and they're on the phone to a mental health provider, I'm going to have a little bit of a problem with that.
Right. Yes, that's a very uncomfortable.
While I do appreciate the intervention, I still don't want them talking to somebody else before I talk to them.
The law affords them that right.
I know, but what I'm telling you
Yeah,
is
it's
that I
better
don't
to
think people,
communicate that.
right, and I don't think people understand that. So what my advice to you would be, doing this in the future, I would put that in your communication.
Yes.
And that, no, you're not gonna hear from us. You might have a kid come home and say that they talked to somebody, that's okay. And legally under statute, blah, 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 I think you need to spell it out.
Well,
I agree.
and
I
they
think-
did, in day 2, 3, it was just that the parent didn't have conversation,
Yeah.
they talked with the kid, and then you didn't know before the kid got home.
Yeah.
It was just the first day. 'cause it
Correct,
went over.
be-
From that
because
point
the
forward, it
attention-
happened.
Yeah, but I had a parent talk to me and say that their kid was spoken to 3 different times and they never got a phone call.
I don't know that there were any kids spoken to 3 different times. I think they might have been referring to the initial group session and then the
Maybe.
secondary session, and that would be it.
Maybe.
But, some of those could be a little bit, I don't know, maybe.
Well, and I mean, it's
Their
just food for,
interpretation.
right,
might be-
and it's
but
just
I get
food
your
for
point.
thought.
I don't
Yes, it's
disagree with
just
your point at all. I think,
food for thought.
yeah, absolutely. There's, some communities are a lot more suspicious than others. I don't know a better way of
Absolutely.
putting it, right? Some communities,
Yep.
I can tell you a few of them, and it's not necessary, 100% of the kids show up, 100% of them complete the service, 100% of the parents, are appreciative. I would, okay, couch 100%, but you get the gist.
Yeah, I do.
You don't talk to all of them, but it's a little easier. In other districts,
Yeah.
we see a big spike on our website, and they're web searching it, and we're getting weird comments, and like, oh, I see what's
Right.
coming on here, but it's not a terrible thing. It's the reality
I
of
agree.
the landscape, and to your point exactly, okay, so this is something we learn, how do we better communicate in this community? Because every one of them that took the time to talk to a provider or one of our staff is like, okay, I get it. I was, but I get it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And
that could
I
be
agree.
avoided.
I mean, behavioral health has a huge stigma. We've got to do something to combat that.
Yeah.
But talking to kids without their parent, well, supposedly without their parents knowing they got the letter. And I told everyone that complained to me, I said, you did get a letter.
Yeah.
It was sent out, but it just for, like I said, for future reference, if you learn from, you learn from every time you do it, right? So.
Yeah, you learn from each community.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's another opportunity to destigmatize this a little bit more. I don't know how you might want to share the report or not share the report, or what you want to do to take an opportunity to let the community know that, your leadership team took this step to invest in their children's futures, and the consequences of not doing it were too high to avoid.
Right.
And the ability to opt out. So state statute, so if I take my daughters, they're older now, but if I take them to their annual wellness visit, they ask me to step out of the
Yeah.
room, and that happens, right? They're going to ask these questions, and I step out of the room because
Yeah.
it's their right.
Yep.
It's not much different. The difference with this notification is, under statute, the parents can opt out. They can't consent. It's not saying I don't consent. It's saying I'm opting my kid out. That's all they can do. But they may not have understood that, but yeah.
So do we know what percent, I know it says 289 took it. Do we know what percent opted out?
The adults, yeah, we do. I don't know off the top of my head what it was. It was a little higher than our averages. Average is about 3% of parental opt-outs. I could say it was lower in Littlefork.
I'm just curious
and
because
other,
maybe
nearby areas. And
maybe people have the same situation that I ran into was people weren't prepared for you guys to come.
Yeah.
So my son had no way to connect to, they said unless he wants to take it another day or be pulled aside separately and listen to it out loud. So I had to opt him out. I
Okay.
really had no choice.
Yeah. That's all right, right? And ultimately, the more people understand, the less likely they'll opt out.
Right. But how would you?
I mean,
We
it's
suggest
I
that
wanted him to
situation.
take it,
Tell him
but
what
he
the
was opted
situation
out.
is.
He has cochlear implants, and
Yeah.
nobody knew
Yeah.
that he had to connect to a computer, so stuff wasn't charged, or
Yeah.
so he didn't. So I had to opt him out. Whereas
Does he
I would
do-
have preferred
does he
him
do
to take
ASL?
it. Huh?
Does he use ASL or does he just use?
No, he just uses. He would use a mini mic.
Okay.
But I don't think the teacher knew that what you guys were bringing or something. Like she said,
Yeah.
he could go into a room by himself. But I'm like, well, then he's singled out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, just opt him out.
So on a side note, we create this hardware, right? This technology that we use is FDA-grade technology. It's antimicrobial, so if a kid has COVID in the hand from their kid, it does not transfer from person to person. We have a headset that the kids can wear, tip a cup out, put one up, but it has the ability to dynamically adjust audio for kids with hearing disabilities or cochlear implants, or if they want to do an ASL or other languages, we can use for them too. So
Okay.
something to know in the future.
Yeah.
But, I think ultimately the things that you're pointing out, what can we do to improve this next time
Yep.
around?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think there are things we can do.
Right.
The parental notification will be much easier the second time because they've seen it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
if they understand the value, Again, we chat, but it's like, you're gonna check for learning disabilities, you're gonna check for hearing disabilities, you're gonna check for vision. You can check to see if the kid's having behavioral health issues.
Yeah.
That's a natural thing to do. It's probably the most likely thing to impact their transition to adulthood. And a way to avoid that is to intervene earlier. And whether they're looking for a kid to have a great academic career, a great athletic career, or just to go on to their career, this is an impediment if it's not identified and addressed. And it's something you can do earlier in its progression. The longer you wait, the harder it is to adjust.
May
I love it. I
ask,
think, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I love it. I think it's a great program all around, but there was some hiccups. I think like a lot of kids would go home and not, like they'd be alone for 3 hours before their parents even got home, and then they had all this information in their lap, like, well, I'm suicidal, and then their parents would get home at 6 and not have a call, and so they were really worried. And then the billing issue was also an issue that some parents got bills for it.
One got a.
Oh, it was two.
Oh,
Two that I
received?
got received.
Okay, 2, yeah. There's no cost for this.
And that's what I said when they'd reached out, but.
It was the electronic medical record, Athena submitted 6, we intercepted 4, I guess, and contacted the parents, but
Okay,
there's
perfect.
no cost to anybody.
Okay, and that's what I knew, so we stopped in its tracks, but it was, you get that information out there and you want to make sure it's stopped, so.
Yes, yeah. Well, in a small community too.
Right.
Well, hey, you're gonna get a bill. There's no cost.
Yeah, no, it's a great,
And I would also point out, other than the first day, everybody was contacted well in advance, and we kept track of that. And the prevalence of an individual student not accepting involving their guardians is very, very low. To my knowledge, in this district, it might have been 0, right? So the pathway for better health is to get their parents involved. And,
absolutely.
May I ask, I'm trying to see where the bottom line is, where did we, how many students, or is that private too? How many students?
200.
No, how many students ended up receiving additional help?
We can extrapolate it from the amount of moderate to severe depression would be additional intervention.
Right.
Some percentage of those, and I believe it should be in one of the charts, are already seeing somebody. So
Well,
we do find the positives that are already identified and already being treated.
right, I guess what I was looking for is, we ended up with 10 kids that, ended up getting some mental health services.
Oh, the total number?
Yeah,
I can check with the staff if that's a.
Well, and all they do is refer them,
Yeah,
right?
well, or we receive the referrals, right?
Yeah.
Some of them take a referral to our service.
Yeah.
So there might be, we have admitting privileges to every major medical system in the state. So if they say, oh, I want to go to Essentia, we can get them an appointment. Oh, no, there's not an appointment for 10 weeks. Would you like us to cover the appointments between now and then? That's the sort of
right.
thing that would be.
So I guess, that's what I'm looking for.
I'll
is
take a
what-
look at what they can provide. I don't
Yeah.
know, obviously in the general report. There's a wealth of additional information that we don't publish in this report, but this is the high level stuff that's relevant. And,
Right.
if you publish more, it becomes public information. So we publish the general information unless you request more.
Right,
So happy to talk to the team about providing.
okay, would you? Thank you.
Your pleasure.
Okay, anything
Do
else?
this every year then, not like going forward, so we can see like, okay,
Yeah.
there are students that receive services and now they, are benefiting from that, and we can see we're trending in a positive direction.
You can track that, yes. Year in and year out, you can start seeing improvements, especially when you're catching some of these concerns earlier in progression. Some of the early onset, 12-year-olds to 14-year-olds will self-resolve. Some of it will continue on, but you can start to measure the adjustment over time. And then, of course, like I said, there's some things you can do in curriculum that can be helpful for these kids. And I think one thing that you can do immediately is think as a board, why are some of these younger kids feeling unsafe? What might we be able to do to change that perception? And why are some of these kids not aware of the services inside of the district? So those are 2 things I think immediately in front of you. And probably the third thing is, how do we better get appreciation for the value of this or another like service for our community to understand, to have better participation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
I'll add a side note. We've been working very closely with the payers. We may be able to bring additional resources through All Thing to the district as well. So we're working toward that right now, that those districts that use the service, there's some benefits. One of the benefits they offer is if your staff is insured, they can reduce your overall premiums by up to 7 points, which could be worth over $100,000 back in the budget. I'll share a little bit more with you on that front.
Oh, we'll take it.
We like to see the staff participate for two reasons. One is the staff is also under a significant amount of stress and pressure in the community. And two is there's a value proposition back on their insurance premiums.
Yep.
Give money back in pocket. So. Kim, is there anything you'd like to add? I think we're coming to
Oh, I think that's good. I think it was all covered, and I just am grateful that the board is understanding the value and the importance of the program, because we really would love to come back and support the community again.
Yeah, and on a personal note, I take great pride in being able to be here in the falls and do this at my school. This is really neat. So appreciate the opportunity with everybody, and it's good to see everybody and be back in the building. It's been a long time.
I was gonna say, was it weird when you walked through the front doors?
It's the same.
The smell is the same. I know, everything's the same. It's like when I walked to the arena.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's the arena.
Some people are probably not here anymore. Like I
Yeah.
used to go visit Rolando all the time. And,
Yeah.
those guys. But yeah, I'm sure I was gonna walk over there and see my dad's photo still on the thing and that whole bit. But yeah, it's weird.
It is. It is.
It's back in time, right?
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So, well, thank you very much. If
Thank
there are
you.
other questions, you guys know how to get a hold of us. And I look forward
Thank
to
you,
working with
Kim.
in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks, Matt. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Real good stuff.
Okay.
Am I able, as a board member, to add an open forum item?
Did you?
Just to read
Oh, I don't
something?
know.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I have something written up as a board member that I just want to read for open forum, if that's okay?
Oh, Kevin, is there anything against that?
Not against, as long as it's.
Yeah, there's no, so I just wanted to say, since April and long before that, minus maybe one or two, every board meeting has been listed as live, except for this June 10th special meeting. We had discussions prior to the superintendent hiring meeting as to why it wouldn't be streamed, and also had conversations before the majority of the meetings, knowing if they would or would not be streamed. The June 10th special meeting has brought forth a lot of questions that I have had personally. I've been asked by staff and our other board members, as well as our community, and have not been able to find answers to them. I've asked the board chair for the information letter she had printed and read aloud before the meeting and before the agenda items had been open to the audience. And she had told myself and other board members that she threw them away after the meeting with no copy to be found. All I'm saying is I'm struggling with the lack of transparency in such an already controversial matter, not only as a board member, but for the community as a whole, for the reason that I felt she was sharing information the way that she perceived it and it wasn't fully policy stated. In this red document, she had stated the rules and expectations of the meeting, which I loved, but she also shared her opinions on what she felt happened in the past to lead up to this meeting, which I felt was personally very disrespectful and publicly unprofessional. I'd like to state that in my 9 years on the board, I've always respected each board member, have walked away from the board table with the same respect, even after difficult discussions and votes when we agree to disagree on or voted differently on. I truly want to continue that, but with such a controversial meeting, having no superintendent at the table at that time, no recording, and there's no speech or informal documents available, we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Joanne and I had a great conversation with Ray Queener this past Friday, and he also feels that we could use some help bringing our board back together for the betterment of our district. I do have paper trails of my meetings with the coaches that admin were both in attendance of. I went through the proper channels to have the information addressed as it arose, and in hindsight, yes, I should have held, and I mean this with no disrespect, Kevin, our superintendent accountable for ensuring these issues were addressed per policy, and I plan to move forward in that direction. I'd like to publicly state that I was simply using our policies that were put into place and flagged the issues as they came up. The lists are there, and sadly, people weren't held accountable, but we moved forward. I've reached out to our new superintendent to ensure that we have time this summer to polish up the handbook, give every employee a copy of our policies for them to read through, understand, and ask questions that arise before signing off on them. Then we can ensure we are holding them to the higher standards and expectations listed. As I always do, I'm ready to move forward in a positive direction with the majority vote. Thank you. And I did give everybody a copy, so it's there.
Okay.
So thanks, guys. I just wanted to add that in. Do you have
Thank
anything
you,
to add?
Tony. I appreciate your thoughts.
I just know that I will not be treated like that ever again.
Duly noted. Okay, off we go. Next thing is Missy. Is she?
Missy's not here, and I don't have anything from her or Tim, other than we're in summer mode and trying to work through, ready for the next year.
So nothing from Tim either?
No.
Okay.
Missy did tell us at the end of the meeting on the 10th She kind of gathered us and said about, before those teacher posts.
Yeah, because I had mentioned that she should say something.
Yes, and she did.
Yep.
So the positions that were posted, the funding came through for title,
Yep.
and there's a teacher moving over, that's why we're replacing it.
Yeah, I reached out to Kevin because I missed that
Yeah.
conversation, so.
Yeah.
I figured it was.
Yeah,
actually-
I just know because I've had people ask me, I'm like, nope, it's funded.
Right.
The budget came through, it's okay, we're not just randomly hiring teachers.
Missy's at an MASA, a training that, if you recall,
Yeah.
half the time I've been at remotely other years.
Yeah.
Because Tim would have went if he wasn't retired, you know, it's administrative
Right.
teams.
But no, she did tell us.
Okay.
And how about Beth?
I do have something to read from Beth. I don't know I can answer questions, but she gave it and asked if I would read it. Report for June 17th. Completed our Dungeons and Dragons group. This will be held again next year. It was very well attended. The Pals Prom was a huge success. They served 71 dinners and had just over 80 in attendance.
Wow.
Yep. The pool will be closed the remainder of the week for maintenance. We have 4 new lifeguards trained last week. That is a big plus. We'll be having another session of group swim lessons starting July 22nd.
Good.
And we have decided to add an evening session due to how quickly the classes filled up. They filled up in less than 24 hours of the class opening for registration. They have a football clinic, a t-ball clinic, and summer driving training coming up. They're finishing the end of the year paperwork / reports, and are gearing up to be for the back to school mailer. So that's what she gave me today.
Okay, thank you. And Tim Ringhofer.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we just completed our spring sports seasons, and the softball team completed their season with a 19-4 record, finished in 4th place in the Section 7-2A tournament. The team did win the Iron Range Conference in-season tournament, where they defeated Grand Rapids Cherry and Greenway Nashwauk-Keewatin for the title. Under the 4th-year head coach Jeff Carey, Casey Myers, Marissa Carey, and Pat Swenson were the assistant coaches for the varsity and JV team, which had a combined 22 players. 16 girls were out for junior high softball, which is very encouraging, and Brian Kershaw was their coach. The baseball team finished the season 6-12 under 5th-year head coach Phil Talmadge. Will Avi, Darren Kittleson, Paul Joslin, and Christian Kittleson were the assistant coaches for the team that had 24 players. TJ Coulomb was the head coach for the 7th and 8th grade team that had 13 players out. The boys golf team had Charlie Anderson as their first-year head coach, and Don Casaretto as the first-year assistant. There were 14 boys out for golf, and they placed 15th at the Section 7-2A meet. There were 5 boys out for junior high golf, with Nick Kaviak, Adam Matthews, and Tom Ballum as coaches. The girls team had 4 girls out for golf, 2 being varsity age and 2 being junior high age, with the same coaching staff that the boys had. Of course, Kelby Anderson had an outstanding season once again, winning her 3rd straight section title, and then went on to place in a tie for 2nd at the state meet last Wednesday.
And now she's playing for the U.S. and Scotland.
Yeah, and now she's in Scotland golfing.
Playing U.S. juniors.
That's awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Pretty cool. The girls track and field team, they placed 2nd at the North subsection meet, and they had the 4x200 relay team of Julia Dykstra, Jillian Bilbin, Mary Versteeg, and Abby Hutchinson qualified for state, and Abby also qualified in the 300 meters individually. The relay team and Abby both placed 20th in their respective events at the state meet. Cheryl Hendrickson was in her 6th year as the head coach, with Alicia Hendrickson as the assistant of 31 girls, with Dale Johnson and Katie Dimitrovich as the junior high coaches. John Sandberg was in his 3rd year as the boys' head track and field coach, and this year he had Luke Zika as his assistant for the 19 boys that were participating. Wyatt Jansen won the Section 7A title in the 300-meter hurdles, and then went on to place 10th at the state meet. Speech finished up in April. I didn't get a chance to talk about them at our last meeting, if I remember correctly. The following qualified for the state meet under head coach Jade Hall. Mitchell Erickson took 23rd in the humorous interpretation, Eli Koenig 24th in the original oratory, and Max Iso and Joe Sullivan took 24th in the dual interpretation. The biannual sports survey was given to the 10th graders in May. The most interesting result from that survey was the sports that we don't offer here, and how many kids were interested in playing soccer, which didn't surprise me a whole bunch, but the fact that a lot of kids wanted to play tennis, and we talked about not having a golf course, but we don't have a tennis court in town either. So
Right.
I'm not sure where they think we're gonna, anyway. just for the record. So, some thank yous, those same ones that I had, of course, Jody, I can't get by without what she does down in the office, is not possible. Kevin, Tim, and Don, and also with Beth Ann Slatinsky, just being there to support and do all those things. Tom Holt, the custodial staff, getting the fields ready with all the rain, and it was a tough spring. Transportation staff with all the changes, need a bus, nope, you don't need a bus. Everything else that went on this spring, it was, it went fairly smoothly, and it was because everybody just kept working. All the game workers and the officials, the kids, again, who went out and did all the work and made the practices and did the things that they needed to do. The parents for getting the kids where they needed to be, and of course, we can't get by without those coaches, heads and assistants doing everything they do. Fall season's less than 2 months away. I hate to say it that way, and it's going to be here by August 12th. We'll be here before we know it, with all the fall practices getting started that day, all the fall teams, and our first home game just got onto the schedule today. As a matter of fact, Roseville called up and said we'd like to play you, and so we're playing them on Monday, August 26th, in a home match here. So that'll be our first match, and then we'll have our first home football game that week as well. And just a reminder, homecoming week is the September 30th through October 4th.
Beautiful. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Okay, I'm just going to hit on a variety of things. The first one, you got a copy. We got our review and comment approved today for your referendum, which is very important because we've gotten it, and if it doesn't get done in time, you can't move forward. And so it has went to the paper. It legally has to be published once. So I gave you a copy of it. Again, the last 2 pages are really what goes to the paper. But I just wanted you to be aware of that. Not that we didn't think it would come, but if they don't give you the head nod, you're stuck in the water, if you want to say it. So that's that. One thing that, and again, I'm just going to jump around. There's several things on here, and there's several things I've written. There's MASA Great Start cohort for new superintendents, okay? In your contract, you typically allow, like myself, to go to trainings, or the superintendent to go to trainings. This Great Start cohort is something MASA started probably 4 or 5 years ago. I think it is awesome. It wasn't there when I do, but they spend 7 days, not 7 days in a row. Is it one a month? I didn't read. Where they bring the superintendents together, new superintendents.
Oh, that's cool.
It's about $600. That's not the big cost. The cost is your soup's gone 1 day, a month. And just before saying yes, because it's a bigger commitment than going to a 1 day or 2 days, we wanted to ask, are you okay? Like I say, I'm 100% if you ask my opinion. I think it's great. It not only builds connections for them, they have other soups come in, and talk about here's things that should be going on now, here's things that you're going to deal with. It's not the end all be all, but it's very good, and it's probably the best training that's available. So we just wanted to ask before, I 100% encourage.
Of course.
Okay, so.
Great idea. Thoughts?
Yes.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
Referendum funds, and again, we're not spending a ton of money, but I just want to make sure we booked we went down to the radio station today, and we have Beth going once a week for the next 5 or 6 weeks. I assume you're okay with that. Like I say, it's for the most part kind of normal cost, but we usually take the summer off. But again, there's some printing. We printed some brochures here, $500-600. You're probably going to have $3-4 grand into promoting. That's all we can do is publicity.
Yep.
You're okay. We didn't talk about, but I just want to make sure that someone, again, we're not, just wanted to throw it out there that if someone, I'll be gone, but why do we spend $3,000, total to, promote, whether it
Because we
goes
gotta
or not.
reach people, yeah.
Correct, okay. Beth and I have met a little bit. Again, we met this morning. I'm doing some more tomorrow. We met once before, just give me a heads up. Starting after tomorrow, unless there's an emergency, I will not be back in the office. Okay, they will start the 19th as a holiday. They'll start cleaning the office just like the vacation I've been using. I still usually are in once a day or something. I have a laptop, approve payments, and I still won't use all my vacation hours. So that being said, I'm still available. Roof blows off, I'll be back in. I'm just saying, but the other piece, like I said, that's where we're at, and she can start setting up her office as she finishes her stuff, and like I say, we will continue conversation. I don't know if we talked about it or not, there was, and I lose track and I couldn't find it in my notes, there was a comment on school pictures that should be, did we talk about that at all last month? And again, we're under contract for
We
next year.
did have the conversation, yeah.
That
but
I
Just to
need
bring it back
come
to
down the
here,
road
I
if you
think.
want, but I just didn't want to drop the ball. I didn't remember if that was last month and we said we can bring it up, but we're locked in for next year.
Right.
But down the road, it's up to you guys if you want to revisit it or not.
Yeah, I think we should
Okay.
revisit it for the next year.
So that's that. One thing with the comments that were said in open forum here just a little bit ago, there was reach out to me on, can we get information? And I'm just sharing with the board to be transparent that anything you have at the table tonight and are using, like if you wanted, I take notes, you would have a right to this information in my notes tonight. Once we leave here, if I throw it away, there's no getting it back. So if someone ever talks to something and you want a copy of it, legally you have to say it tonight. Like I provide my stuff to the paper quite often because they want, can you give me the notes? Again, but I didn't realize that. Like I say, anything you bring to the table and use tonight is technically public. But once you leave here, you get rid of it, that's fine. Now, what I'm getting at is like we have minutes. If I was to lose this, the district legally has to recreate it, meaning we have to figure out who made the motion, second, the best of our knowledge. When you throw your stuff away, there's no legal requirement to recreate it. So I'm just throwing it out there. If you ever bring something and use it for a board meeting, not saying your phone that's in your pocket, but I'm saying you have stuff at the table. If someone wants a copy, you better ask before you leave, and we'd have to make copies or whatever. So I just
Something
wanted
new
to
learned every day.
Yep, pass that along. Two other things, the committee met to make a recommendation, and that'll come later in the meeting, on the 4 at-will positions. And so there is a recommendation coming for 3%. It's really only three positions, but we wanted the businessman to include that one so it keeps moving in case you ever go back that way. But there's two pieces under here that the committee wanted brought forward for some discussion at some point. One going back to, do you continue down the road a business manager, how it is? And again, the group we're working with is going just fine. Again, it's not a full-time gig, that being one of them. Mm-hmm. So that's where actually B comes in, that there's duties that have been put on other people, and it's taken extra time. We're paying overtime in a lot of cases, and also the piece that Barb's resigned her 2-day-a-week position again. And so there is, what do you want to do going forward? And it's a piece Beth has asked, are we going to get any help? And it's not for me to say, it's something you as a group need to figure out, what do you want? Some of it is stuff that we didn't cover, so to speak, with the CISO hire. And some is, some stuff that, like I say, Barb's taken care of, and I don't know where you want to go. So, and anyone else that wants to comment on those, that was part of the discussion, it's just, at some point, it needs to be either revisited, or here's, we're okay paying the ones that are doing it some extra because they had full plates. And, if it takes them 43, 44 hours, that's 3-4 hours of overtime. And it's not 3-4 hours every week, it ebbs and flows. But there are.
Is this something that we should have maybe another, a meeting on? That, does the board feel that we should have a meeting and
One other
discuss
thing
it?
I threw at Beth today, and it's how you want to move forward as she takes over. Is it something you want to have a working session on, not only setting goals, but you could have several items, this could be a part of it. Or, and again, there's a lot of referendum, and I'm not saying it has to be the first week of July. Let her get her feet on the ground, and maybe mid-August, or, that's up to, you can comment if you want to or whatever, but, it's not a bad idea to,
Well, and I think it's important to say too, one of the people in the business office was hired as part-time and wanted to work part-time, but is not able to. She's working full-time, and we're still not keeping up. So it's like big things to talk about there too.
And there was a recommendation in that report to actually hire, I think, 2 people.
Right.
Again, whether you agree with it or not, and not talking that with support people, it's something to look at and figure out. And so, like I say, how you do it rocks.
Yeah. Well, I think that we should consider having a work session to do that. So I guess we'll address that in the very near future.
No, and I think we want to evaluate the contract too.
The contract for which contract?
Business management.
The business management contract, the online services? Could all be part of the working
Once we feel
session.
we have enough time and data
Right.
to see how it's going.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, we'll all have to remember to get that on an agenda soon.
I don't have anything else. That's all I have.
Okay,
Kevin,
well,
if I could interrupt one. Somebody said the song no longer on the.
No, because that's not working, so.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't know how to do anything
Okay.
different. I mean, this is still streaming, but with that thing.
KCC TV will have
Yeah.
live streaming sound later, though,
Correct.
correct? Okay, yes.
well, and I guess, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I do want to say thank you for your services, Kevin, because
100%.
it's been really great working with you, and, you know, we're going to miss you. So, thank you. And now we're on to the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I can just make a couple of comments. On 6:10, on the minutes, it was brought to my attention, and again, I was not here at that meeting, and I think whoever took the minutes, there was something I missed on the bottom, and again, Kendra types them up, but there was a motion, I believe it was under number 1, to table both 1 and 2, items 1 and 2 made by Joanne.
Yes.
And it never got a second. That is not on the minutes, so that'll be added. It failed due to a lack of a second, and we didn't put that in there, and that should be in there because that is action. So I asked that that be part of what you're going to approve. I'll get Kendra to update it. That'll have to be signed. You know, we'll sign the other minutes tonight, but that'll have to be signed.
Signed again.
So that's one thing. I just wanted to mention the Faith United, and I had it when I was working with them. They added 2 or 3%, which is a normal increase. And the same with Rainy Lake Medical Center, the contract. So again, I recommend both of those minimal increases. The one that I struggle with, but you don't have much, there's not much option, is number 20.
Oh, that kills me.
It kills me, but again, they went out in the market, and it's about an 18% increase. Yeah, no, it's huge, but that was the best we could get. But the really stinger, and it's not, you know, each one has different providers, but they're having horrible issues with roofs. And I'm not talking just I mean,
Right,
you know,
in general.
So they're changing, the insurance providers are changing the wind and roof protection. It doesn't meet your normal deductible anymore. It's a 1%, and that's how they're getting around because they're losing their rear, if you will. And so there's like the 3 or 4 major providers we had, CISO, myself, and them had a meeting, and it's like, well, then we should be. She's like, no, they've all done it. When one did it, the others did it. So if you have, you know, a $5 million building, and that's not an expensive building in this day and age, 1% of that, if it was damaged due to wind, you'd have to pay that before your insurance kicks in.
Wow.
And that's significant.
That is.
And so, I mean, and again, they don't know if it's, you know, long-term, if people will fight it, but that's the way the policies are. So, anyway, it is what it is. I did talk to them that I think you need to push it as much as you can on the next renewal. I mean, several providers, you know, gave them prices and stuff, but we need to, I think, do a bigger swath. Because, I mean, we haven't had we had a roof deal a year ago, but again, in the big picture of things, that was not a major, you know, catastrophe. So, anyway, it is what it is. The only other comment on number 21, just so you know, there's a recommendation to update the joint power agreement with where that's coming from. If you recall, we're working on a building project there. Virginia has signified that they're going to get out of the co-op. But they haven't formally, you know, noted it. And in the bylaws, you have up to a year to rescind. Well, they have now told us they are. If they rescind, say, a day less than a year, we've already moved forward designing a building and stuff.
Based on their
and there'd
input.
be huge costs to restart. And so that's why they're amending that power. I mean, anyone has a right to get out. But if you do and you want back in, and now there's a cost to the co-op, you're going to be responsible. Because we're going to plan, again,
Right.
assuming they don't, they're a big chunk.
Right.
And that's
so
right in their town, correct? I mean, that's,
Yeah, it's in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what.
Crazy.
Wow.
But it makes sense. They just never have had it. You know, normally when someone said you're out, okay, you're out. I mean, we're not changing the
Right.
building. Here,
I'm
we're
just
changing
surprised
the
they're
building.
stepping out.
Well, I was gonna
guess
say,
is what
yeah, did they opt out because they brought stuff internally in their new building, or what?
I can't speak for
Right.
Yeah.
Ridge. I mean, they feel they're big enough that they can do it on their own, and I don't know. I have mixed feelings. They've been involved all along, and
Right.
as long as I can remember. So anyway, those are the comments.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, now we're going to go to the action items under resolution of acceptance of gifts and donations. Whereas school board policies, oops, could I have a motion for the resolution
A
acceptance?
motion.
One second.
Discussion anymore? Okay, I'm going to read this. Whereas School Board Policy 706 establishes the guidelines for the acceptance of gifts or donations to the district, whereas the International Falls School District Board encourages the support of the district's educational programs through gifts or donations that meet the goals and objectives of the school district, whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 states the school board may accept a gift, grant, or devise of real or personal property only by the adoption of a resolution approved by 2/3 of its members. Therefore, be it resolved, the School Board of International Falls Public Schools, ISD 361, accepts with appreciation the following gifts, donations, or grants received by the school district. Falls Education Foundation, $413.54 for wellness activities. Rainier Rec Club, $1,300 for hockey coaches. Bronco Girls Hockey Boosters, $3,413.32 for girls charter buses. Bronco Football Boosters, $1,404.96 for UMD trip. Summer T-ball / softball / baseball sponsors, Woodworkers Lodge W33, $350. Okay, so we had a motion, we had a second. Anything else? No, and so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, we're going to look under 1B, approve the naming of the field at Bronco Stadium to Stuart Nordquist Field. Could I have a motion?
A motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
First off, do you want to say something?
No, I'm just going to hand these out.
With a formal request to name the football field at Sports Stadium Stuart Nordquist Field at Sports Stadium. It's not only our obligation, but our ambition for our Bronco football program to honor our history. The words displayed downstairs in our high school lobby and as you approach Sports Stadium state the task ahead of us is never as great as the power behind us. All of our program, our school, and our history is behind us, pushing us forward, and that's the source of our mantra, Stampede. One individual stands out significantly beyond the rest in the history of Bronco football, and that is Coach Stuart Nordquist. Coach Nordquist had and continues to have a great impact throughout our community, but the area closest to Nordquist's heart is football. He played 4 years as quarterback for University of Minnesota Morris before starting his career as a high school teacher and coach at Adams, Minnesota. As two local schools began the process of combining, the low person on the pole sought a new stepping stone in International Falls, which was meant to only be a 2-year stepping stone. 50 years later, Nordquist and his wife Susan continued their lives here. In that time, Coach Nordquist completed 34 seasons between 1974 and 2008 as head football coach, with an overall record of 232 wins and 116 losses. These wins achieved 10 conference championships, 14 section final appearances, and 8 state tournament appearances. His 275 career wins rank him in the top 10 all-time in Minnesota football history. Nordquist also contributed to the district as a basketball coach, a track coach, and history, geography, and social studies teacher. He was named the first Dean of Students in 1996 until his retirement in 2000. After his retirement, he served as a school board member. He currently supports various fundraising efforts for the school and self-funds a yearly scholarship to graduating football players and managers. The Minnesota High School Football Association and the Minnesota State High School Coaches Association admitted Nordquist into their Hall of Fames, and he is a member of and instrumental in the development of our Bronco Athletic Hall of Fame. He is the source of the history of record books that we have for our sports, some of which are published copyrights. This is supported significantly by Coach Ringhofer and has evolved to the history books for all of our sports and the source of our Touch Pros display. As I noted, Coach Nordquist maintained several roles in our district and was head coach for 34 years. In that time, he coached players that went on to have college careers between junior colleges and to Division I levels, some even with professional play. I say more importantly, he coached the men who are now our mill workers, our teachers, police officers, firefighters, our city workers, business owners. He coached our students' fathers and grandfathers. We do not seek a donation. We seek to give an honor. We do not seek naming a scoreboard or a locker room. We seek naming the field to which we gather on a given fall night, where we share hope and tradition, and players fight, fans hope, and we all sacrifice something of ourselves so others can succeed. Where we, past players, alumni, parents, and the Bronco football program aim to maintain the values that Nordquist created, taking care of the little things on which great things are built, not resting until our good is better and our better is best. Let's honor the past, embrace the present, and maintain the standard for future Broncos. Let's answer why being a Bronco is important. Because of our history, those that came before us and sacrificed for the purpose of others' success. We can improve our student experience, standard of athletics, and uphold community by naming Stuart Nordquist Field at Sports Stadium. Thank you, and as always, Stampede.
Well, how can you say no after that?
Wow.
So good.
Okay, well, let's have a little bit of discussion. We did have some discussion before about naming this field. There were some opposing opinions on it. So let's start on this end. Do you have any opinions now, Jess? Because I know you had some before.
My concern before was I thought that they wanted to rename Bronco Stadium. I have a problem with that. But it will be the Stuart Nordquist Field at Bronco Stadium. I have absolutely no problem with that.
Okay. Tina?
No, I'm good with it.
Bruce? Good. I'm good. Dale?
I'm good.
Tony?
I'm good.
Joanne? Okay, looks like we're good with that. So, we had the motion, we had the second, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 1C, approve the increase of 3% for district business office clerk, payroll benefits coordinator, business manager, and technology assistant effective 7/1/24.
I need a motion. And a
I'll make a
second.
motion.
Yeah, I see there's no writing here for motion. Okay, so anyway, you got the second now? We had the motion and the second? Okay, discussion?
So there's a copy, and so the group that met is recommending, again, there's 4 open spots in here that didn't get, they got the increase last year and would want to do in year 2. And so that is the same percent that the other positions got in year 2, and that's the recommendation. So unless the others want to comment.
Any other discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, what do we have this?
Okay, so the next piece, and I'll just speak before you, annual basis, you just name me, the Iowa. Okay, and that's the person that can give anyone rights to the Minnesota Department of Education sites. So we file reports on all different things from early child. You need one person in the district, and you have to do it on an annual basis. So it makes sense now that I'm going and I'm going to be gone. That is the person. So I didn't print a copy of that, but it's filled out. I just need your approval. We'll ship it off tomorrow, and usually that one actually takes a few days. She'll be up and ready to go.
We just need to switch it as the
Did I-
IWOA, and then one says IOWA.
Oh, yeah, it
So
is
just so
Iowa.
it's fixed
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
minutes for
sorry.
that. That's okay.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, so now number 2, for maintain our facilities to be welcoming, safe, and efficient for use by students and the community. 2A, approve the purchase of a new sound system for Bronco Arena from NLFX for $73,354.62 with the understanding the Falls Ed Foundation Purple Pride will raise the majority of the funds and reimburse the district over the next few years. Motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Okay, just give me 1 second here. So just so the group's aware, you heard Mr. Jorgensen, there's a plan here in place. I talked to Mr. Lemio this morning. For the most part, if everything works out over the next 2 to 3 years, the district may have very little involved. On the flip side, they can't guarantee they're going to get everything that they're out to get. I mean, they have a significant part already. Realistically, district could be on the hook for 20,000, 25,000 out of 75, a third. Pretty good deal for the need. Flip side, it might be 5,000. Again, it's not atypical, just so you're aware, we upfronted the cost on many things. I'm just going to point out back to baseball. We billed several people paid, I think each group paid $3,000 or $3,500. The district had 1 spot, so we had 35. But we upfronted the whole thing. Some businesses paid the whole thing up front. Others we billed for 2 or 3, whatever they needed
Sure.
years. We've done it with the scoreboard down there. We've done that many times. And so, like I say, it is a need. I mean, there's been, some trials to fix it and this and that. There's other needs too. I mean, there's, other things coming. But the group stepped up and, again, I would recommend
And they're doing the legwork.
Correct.
Yeah, they've
And
done
again, it's a
everything.
handshake. It's not saying, we're not putting it exactly in writing that you got to raise 62,000 or whatever.
Right.
I mean, we trust. We've not, for the most part, been burned. The group does a lot for you.
Yeah, they do.
I have no doubt this is just in the last couple of weeks. I mean, it went from having a little bit of a commitment to they got quite a bit of commitment. So, again, they wanted to come speak, and like I say, I recommend and
So we upfront the entire
we
amount?
upfront it, and we'll get it in, like I say, and then they'll start donating, and we'll
Okay.
track it. And like I say, to the point, but again, if it all comes through, talking to Jim last week when he was putting this together, again, he has a bunch laid out. If everything worked out, and again, Angie Sandstrom for FEF is writing some grants as well, and you just never know which ones come out. I mean, you could, in essence, upfront it and have nothing in the game, which is great, because that's their purpose, is to work for the district, But on the other hand, if things don't work, maybe you have 15,000, And so I recommended them not putting an exact dollar that you're going to be on the hook for 20, because if they can raise more, so be it. There's another item coming down the road. There's going to be needs.
There's always something coming down the road.
So
What budget does this come out of for us?
it comes out of the
upfront?
arena. It'll either come out of capital, but there's a fair amount in that fundraising. And again, it just hasn't been donated or dictated for anything, from the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, that ultimately, I think, would be the best bet if we could take it out of there and not out
Correct,
of
but there
capital.
again, when the money comes in, it really should go back. I mean, it's not that's district money. You could use
Right.
that for football stadium if you wanted, theoretically. It's just, it's tracked as advertisement, and we'll take as much as we can, from there. And but it could come some out of capital, wherever. I don't want to speak. I spoke with Cecil going, this may be, just so you're aware, because again, with the, they're going to have to do the shell game with the solar as well to make sure we can, again, it's great steps forward, but you gotta make sure you can bankroll it in the short term.
And not mess ourselves up for anything else that comes up in the, after it.
Okey-doke. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now, we are going to
So I would say we have a motion and a second to pause until the 7 o'clock referendum meeting starts. Okay, and at that time, we will, I guess, formally come back into session and do that. We are going to, as part of that, take a tour, and so, I don't know if KCCTV is going to wait around and partake in that or not, but we do plan on going through that presentation, and so To me, just a motion and a second to
Okay,
break,
could we
pause,
have-
whatever.
I'll make the motion to pause.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're on pause. Okay, we'll end our pause now and we'll resume. And it goes right to, is it going to be Rob or
No,
Kevin?
I'm going to start. First of all, welcome to everyone. Appreciate you taking time out of your evening to come and hopefully learn a little bit. If you don't learn anything new, I apologize, but hopefully we educate a little bit, become informed. Just a little bit of what we're going to do. We're going to show a little short video, go through a little PowerPoint, and end with a video, and then offer a little walk around of showing you some of the things that would be covered under the proposed. You want me? Sorry, to make sure. Proposed referendum if it was passed. It is supposed to be informative, question and answer. If people have questions, love to have them. Obviously, I mean, we're going to go through a variety of things. If you want to wait till the end and ask them, that works too. But if there's something as we're going through a slide and you have a question, I would sure hope people would be willing to ask and like say, give you the answer we have, or if we don't, I will get an answer or find an answer. And so just a couple introductions. Beth Ramon, our new incoming school superintendent, is with us. Welcome, Beth. Rob from Nexus, it's the group that has worked with us, and we'll talk about a little bit more from the high level to helping us kind of put this together. So we thank him for his help and thank the board for the support. And so we're going to start with a little 4-minute, something like that, video to start with.
Oh, is this one of those videos that they just showed?
Yeah, it's one of those.
Awesome.
This is the school referendum information video.
Well, I grew up in this district, grew up in this town.
I worked here for 30 years. I taught school. I was a special ed teacher.
Been here 26 years.
It's all been part of my life, all my life.
I love how we're a small school district. I know some people can see that as a negative, but I really see that almost as a positive, that tight-knit community.
The International Falls community as a whole, it has a lot of pride. You can see it when you go into the different shops and restaurants, all the people that have built this community over the years. There's a lot of pride in this community.
On August 13th, voters in the International Falls School District will be asked to vote on a 2-question referendum ballot to provide funding for the district's space and facility needs.
The science, technology, engineering, art, and math, our STEAM program, we are limited on space for that. There's a lot of storage space that's needed. We don't have that.
At the high school, the CAD tech area, the lack of space, this addition would help facilitate some additional flexibility in the projects.
We have a lot of special education students, and we need space to fulfill their needs. Privacy and a safe place to do that is paramount.
I mean, our school is 60 years old. Sewers, piping, those are all 60 years old, and they've shown where. We need the referendum to get these things done and get them done soon, just to survive. I mean, we can keep plugging away, but when we move money from one spot to the other, maybe the sidewalks miss out, maybe the HVAC system doesn't get repaired.
One of the most important things that are near and dear to my heart is the safety, especially for the Falls Elementary School.
We're buzzing people in, expecting them to come into the office, where if it was someone with bad intentions, they could come in and they're down the hall and we're not even sure which way they went. So I don't know if there's ever a great time or a right time. The price of these projects continues to go up year after year. Do we wait another year? Do we wait 2 years? The reality is the cost is going to keep going up. The needs are going to continue to grow. We owe it to the kids for the next 10, 20 years that they're in facilities that are adequate.
It brings a sense of pride to us to have these new things and for kids to walk in and know that that belongs to them.
As a coach, I've been to almost every athletic facility in northern Minnesota, and our athletes as well. They get to see these newer schools, they see the weight rooms, they see beautiful infrastructure that they've built around their athletes. Those athletes feel valued, and unfortunately our players come home and they have a crumbling infrastructure. The second question will revitalize that really heart of our downtown and our community.
Approval of question 1 would result in an estimated tax increase of $8 per month for the average home in the district. If question 2 passes, it would result in an estimated tax increase of $3 per month.
We cannot have a thriving community without a thriving school district. It's so important right now for this community to utilize that pride, its history, to make sure that the young men and women that are graduating from the school district are ready to step into careers, universities, tech schools, and then continue to invest in the community that invested in them.
To learn more about the referendum, visit our website at internationalfalls.referendumfacts.org. And please remember to vote on or before August 13th.
So as we get going, this video will start to be released. Okay, it's going to go out. There's a second one we're going to see to kind of end the presentation. That'll come out, I think, roughly a week later. There's other clips. It's one way to get the story and the message out. Okay, we're going to go into more of an informational, walking through how we got to this point and what the proposed referendum would cover. We'll also look quickly at a website that the school has. It's on its homepage that has a lot of information, and I think it's fairly user-friendly. Questions and frequently asked questions, which hits a lot of things. Anytime we get something that you hear more than once and people are getting, it's going on there. And so encourage people to have questions. Obviously, reach out. We love to talk, but more importantly, there is information out there. So, and again, little agenda just for the slideshow, kind of how we got here. We're going to look at, we do have a facilities plan that we do stuff just like this summer. We're replacing the ventilation system in the shop area, something we're tacking on. We're hitting some of the sidewalks in certain places. There's different things that get done. We do roofs on a schedule, and sometimes you can push them back, but we plug away at the pieces that we can. But when it comes to major, and I'm going to go back to the last major that I was involved with was the heating system, the ventilation, air exchange at the elementary. That's something we can't pull off on our own without going to a taxpayer to ask for some special help. The other one, probably 5-6 years ago, time flies by, the arena, when the piping and the floor had to be replaced. That is not, we don't have, and unfortunately, we have roughly a $13 million budget. 85% is staff, okay, and that includes salaries, benefits, things like that. There's just not enough money when we pay all the other things, heat, electricity, different things, insurances, to save millions for the bigger projects. So, like it or not, schools don't have the same option as cities and counties to just go for it and we're going to levy X amount this year. So in this case, that's where a referendum or a bond levy comes from. So we'll talk about the 10-year plan because there are some things covered. Fob system, the entry that had to be replaced, we ticked that off last summer. And so there are pieces that we will, and even if this goes through, this is not going to cover all the needs. We're going to still be doing that. How we got here, a community group that helped us. Eventually the board had to take some actions, and like I said, we're open to questions either as we go or as towards the end and down the road. So jumping right in. Roughly February of 2022 is when we engaged. We actually opened it up. There were 4 companies. We put an RFP out to have a group come in and do, I'm going to say, a 10,000-foot view of the facility. Come in and look from the roofs down to the piping in the ground and everything in between. We put an RFP out. Nexus was the one chosen at that time. Like I said, there were 4 different companies, Cross Anderson, I think Johnson Control, and I think one other. I don't know if anyone remembers. So anyway, Nexus was selected. They started, for the most part, doing this comprehensive audit, 10,000-foot view, however you want to call it. It took roughly a year. They had groups come in from engineers, electricians, a lot of their people, but a lot of other people that they contract with to come in and look at, from tuck pointing on the outside, look at the roofs, look at all the different pieces, technology, and so on. Also during that process, they started having conversations with our staff because there's a piece of me asking staff and the way people answer compared to someone independent, someone outside. And the same with community. And we'll talk about they've had meetings with community. And kind of like we did the strategic plan with Teamwork, same thing. People will answer differently based on who will ask. So we felt it was important to have an outside group come in, look at it, and give us some recommendations. Eventually, that audit was put together fairly thick book the board got. It's on the website, and it lays everything out. From that point, we started looking, or they helped us get a community group together so that it was not just administration coming and saying this is what we need to do. It wasn't the board coming and saying this is 100% what we need to do. It was taking that stuff Nexus did, stuff the staff had given as survey and comments, and then the community group started to look at it. In the meantime, a survey went out to all taxpayers, okay? And again, independent group, what's the company that does?
School Perceptions.
School Perceptions is a company that they worked with to have that done. Mailing went out, and again, I forget the percentage returned. It was good for a survey. It was not 100% by any means. And like the national average, I want to say is 5% or something.
It was 18.
Was it 18%,
Yeah.
which they said was great for a community survey. So that is good. So that community group then looked at that as well and came back to the board with a recommendation. And we're going to talk about what that is. And then the board eventually made the final decision, yeah, this is what we're going to do. And they backed that community group or took their recommendation, and that's where we're at today. With selecting the piece the board had to choose then, do you go in August or do you wait till November? And to be honest, the reason to go in August was if it is approved, it can be ready to go for the following summer then. Where if we waited to November, as much has been planned, it still goes to design, has to go to bid, and it wouldn't be ready for the summer. So that was, for the most part, the reasoning. Everyone else might have some other reasons, but so again, looking at the 10-year facility plan along with what Nexus did in analyzing, looking at things that are in good shape, things that are in horrible shape, ballpark and with the community survey, if all the, I'm going to say, wish list was put out there, and I'm just going to throw examples. New gym at the elementary, a full-size gym at the elementary. Important. Would be a great addition. That wasn't included when it was all said and done. There was different technology requests. There was different, I mean, you name it, there were a lot of things that aren't included in, I'm going to say, the $14 million question one, the $4.5 million question two, but things that ranked high no matter who they talked with or who responded, whether it was a survey, whether it was just individual conversations. Building infrastructure, okay, keeping the building solid, and again, your buildings are in good shape for the 50, 60 years old. Technology systems, as much as we love our technology, we hate our technology, it still pops up as it is needed. And we do have to be able to accommodate the needs and educate. Safety, security, ADA compliance, again, and I don't think this is necessarily, in other groups did surveys and did, these things would rise to the top in most places. Interior finishes, definitely, if you walk in the hallways and start looking at some of the floors, some of the cabinets, things are starting to get some wear and tear on them, okay? Ceilings have been done, some lightings in certain room, the hallway, the ceilings and lighting have been done. The classrooms are not LED lights, that's part of what'll come if this is approved. Site improvements, there is some outside from sidewalks, parking lots, things like that. The climate we live in, they take a beating, so to speak. And then educational adequacy, and what that is things are done differently nowadays. And it's not saying, groups that were taught, I'm going to say 30, 40 years ago, education is similar, but it's not exactly the same. There's a lot more working in groups, not necessarily desks and rows. So it's looking at these different pieces. How do we use online, I'm going to say, biology programs to do dissections and things. Some of that is done more than actual bringing a fetal pig in and doing it hands-on. It's done on the computer somehow. Some of it is still done hand-on, but it's how do we do things and can we do them in this day and age compared to how the building was designed. This community group, like I said, Rob, help me out. 20 people, 25 people. We met 3 different times. Yeah, in this room. Started May of last year. First thing they did is again, they came in and looked at how education is done in this day and age. And they also looked at the financing. And we presented them with a shortened version or longer version than we talked about tonight. But for the most part, here's how we can fund things. One is referendum, one is pay as you go, and that's really what we're doing to fix things and maintain things. But to build, and I'm going to say a $3 million addition, it's not going to be accommodated for the most part to be able to save up. We went through some different options. There are things that the board can choose to do without going to the taxpayer. For instance, parking lots are one of them. You know, and if we want, that's not the plan. The plan is to put the total piece in and not ask for something and then tack on a chunk of money. That was important to the board to be upfront, transparent. Here is the ask, and here's what we're going to do, and hopefully hold it up. So anyway, that was the first meeting. The second meeting, they came back roughly a month later. They did a facility tour of the buildings. The people that were volunteered to be on the group, some of them are in the buildings frequently, have kids. Other people maybe haven't been in, so they did a tour of I'm going to say high school, went through the arena, went to the elementary. We didn't get over to Bronco Stadium. We had some pictures and stuff, or the bus garage, but they did a tour. We also looked at the building deferred maintenance and the long-term plan, and look at what we planned on doing, what we have on the schedule, and are ticking away at it, and what we're probably not going to do, or if we're forced to do certain things, something's going to give. And so we went through that plan. The last meeting, they looked again at the teacher and staff facility input, those surveys. They looked at the community survey and took what the group, and again, school perceptions, what they presented, and then came up with a recommendation. And like I say, overall, 40 million, I feel bad for my back to you. 40 million if you totaled everything up. And again, 95% are probably legitimate and really good. There's a few things out there you go, who dreamt, and again, no one's names was on them, but that's my own opinion. And then they presented it to the board, okay? And then the board had to say, okay, we agree or don't agree. We'll get into a little bit more of how they got to that, what they recommended here in just a few minutes. From the community survey, the top four, I'm going to say vote leaders, if you will, they were kind of, if you remember, if any of you took the survey, it was in categories. Top one being major building systems, similar to what Nexus came up with. They want to make sure that the boilers, the heating systems, air exchange, those type things are kept up. Safety and security, and again, the high school has a secure entry. The elementary, that survey very high on needs and support. Updating classrooms, labs, technical, CTE in all schools, that fared well on the survey. And then building exterior and site work fared well. There are a lot of other things that, again, not that they're not important or not valued, but unfortunately they didn't fare as high. And when you start making, picking and choosing, if you will, because we can't do everything, those things unfortunately drop off. Fortunate or unfortunate, however you look at it. Money is a big piece when it comes in. We can have all the needs, and we can have wants and needs, but what is going to be supported? And that was a big piece of having an outside group come is, that has experience, not just, I haven't done a lot of referendums, to be honest with you. And so, guide us. And where they came in is, part of the questions were, what do you support? Physically and for your school. But the second is, what will you support tax-wise, financially? Again, they went from the 40 million all the way down. It wasn't every, it was 6 or 7 choices based on dropping a certain amount off. They got down to roughly 15 million. They're in that 50%, getting close, because you can't get over 50%, it's not supported. They narrowed into something that had to be something under 15 million. And they narrowed down to eventually right around 14 million was what they recommended to the community group that was going to come up with the project, so to speak. That's what the community, the people that replied to the survey, doesn't mean it's a done deal. The 18% that surveyed, it's 18%. There's another big percent that hasn't replied. But in their experience, you follow what was recommended, like I say, physically, task-wise, and money, it can be hopefully successful, okay? Oops. Getting into things that made the cut now, again, keeping in mind those 4 kind of key areas, that's where this stuff comes in. At the high school, okay, heating upgrade, our boilers are in good shape, they've done some work, even as old as they are, they will outlast, and I said this I think on the radio this morning, or a group I was talking with, we replaced boilers in elementary. They will not last 50 years.
Okay, the boilers downstairs are original. They'll last another 50, 60 years. There's been work done to them. They've been kept up. They're in great shape. They are things in this change from steam to hot water. Those boilers can do, and it can be more efficient and be a better environment. So that is one of the recommendations that was adopted from the group to move forward. The pool, and again, there's no specific order here, it's just what we have listed. If you drive by the pool in the winter, it turns white on the outside of the building, and it's not snow, okay? It's chemical leaching through, and that comes from inadequate pressure, and it's not good for the facility. It doesn't have dehumidification down there, so part of the upgrade would be to redo the air exchange and add dehumidification. Get the, I'm going to say get it balanced, if that's the right word, so it's not pushing and leaching out. Kitchen, and this goes high school as well as elementary, but the kitchen's in need of some upgrades, remodel, and there are pieces we're doing on the pay-as-we-go, like we're getting some new equipment, we're getting new stoves this year, we can afford to do pieces, but there are a lot more needs that we included some in there. We're serving, even though we're getting a little smaller, with breakfast and lunch, we're actually serving more meals than we have done, I can't say forever, but in recent past. In both buildings, and that's, I think, a good thing. LED lighting, like I said, we've done certain pieces pay as you go. It makes sense to get that done. That is a place that electric bill wise you can save. So we would finish all the rooms. Replace outdated cabling. We are cabling and access points for technology is a piece that needs to be upgraded, and so that's included in here. The exterior of the building, it's all, I'm going to say, miles of tuck pointing that is supposedly in need of being upgraded. It's not to the point, and I use the example, and again, I'm not hitting on anyone, I'm a member of the Elks, our building has gone too far. There's bricks falling out, and it's in a bad place, and we need to stop before we get there. And so the idea is to have a company come in, redo the tuck pointing, sealing the windows, and keep it so that it doesn't deteriorate and it gets kept up. Bathrooms downstairs, the main bathrooms are in need of update, and they would be redone as part of the project. Part of the one of the pieces the kids spoke to in their survey and in communication was having a more welcoming entryway. Okay, when you walk into, and I'm just going to say some of the newer schools now, you walk in and their entryway, their commons area is where they eat breakfast, lunch, where there's sports, if you go there at night for volleyball, basketball, whatever, the gym, that's the main area that's used and used. So part of this is to do the same with ours. It's not going to be exactly because that's how it's designed, but we would get rid of that, I'm going to say the glass area. When we walk by, if you're not familiar, there's glass in between. Make it wide open so it's a big space that is used each night for basketball, volleyball, things like that. It would allow boosters to have a new area instead of being kind of right in front of the restrooms as people waiting in line for pizza, people going to the bathroom. It would avoid that. The booster groups would have an concession area in the gym or in the cafeteria area. That would be repurposed. The lounge would just be reconfigured and the bathrooms updated, kind of all in one piece. Expand construction lab spaces in the career and tech. Again, our wood shop and metal shop, in my opinion, has been kept up very well. We have very good machinery, tools, things like that. We've added some things that eats up some space. The computer-aided tables, whether it's the plasma cutter or in the wood shop, there's a computer, I'm going to call it router or machine that can design and stuff. It takes up space. There isn't much space. There's space for small projects, but there's not much room to do a bigger project. And so that's the idea of putting a high bay area, a small addition on the outside of the wood shop and metal shop, right where the vehicles park. If you're familiar back there, that's about the size of it would be. It would have a garage door. Not sure if it's on both ends. Again, the design is not completely done, but where you could, whether it's a fish house or something like that, you could have a bigger project. They could work on it in all elements, if you will. Elementary school, updated playground equipment for some stuff's just getting older and in need.
as well as moving the stuff closest. We call it the 5th and 6th grade play area that's closest to the road. Would also be moving, that stuff as well as some upgrades back behind the school, so it is not quite as close to the road. LED lighting again. Both buildings, anything that hasn't been updated would be updated. Data and cabling, again, same as here, access points. Exterior, the tuck pointing, all the windows being caulked, resealed. An elevator. Falls Elementary does not have an elevator. It is needed. To be honest, the only way we accommodate ADA, if a kid were to go in a wheelchair, we move to class. And that's just not right. The same with staff. We've had staff that have gotten injured, and if they can't get upstairs, we've got a problem. Let alone our own staff. I mean, they're lugging the garbages up and down, machines that have to go up and down. So I guess the board feels it's important, it's time to accommodate that. Security, that is a big piece at the elementary. Again, I don't want to raise alarm if this doesn't pass. We're doing the best we can. They do have a buzzer system, but the reality is a lot of things are going on. There's times there's only one secretary in there. You buzz to come in, and we don't know. I mean, we're a great community. I'll be honest, I don't lock my house a whole lot. I think it's a safe community, but on the other hand, some bad things have happened in safe communities. And so it's high on the priority list on the survey, as well as I think the board's intentions. Again, it would add some new space. Most of this, this and the tech area are the only new small additions. It's not a huge addition in question one. Okay, it would be alongside where the entryway is, out to about where the building ends. There's a window, and again, we're not going to go over there tonight on July 15th. We're meeting over there if someone wants to come and do a walkthrough there, or I'm going to throw the invitation out. We're open to doing other tours if people are interested. But it would come up to that window, so we don't cover that first classroom. They still have a window. They'd add some space, and then, of course, with the old office, we want to utilize that space. A lot of our, I shouldn't say a lot, there's programming in every closet and classroom that we have over there. So the added space of the old office, if this went forward, would be reutilized into STEM space as well as some special ed space, because that's the plan at this point. Special ed and pre-K, the pre-K classrooms, again, they've had, I'm going to say partial, three-quarter walls. It's higher than three-quarter, but they need to be insulated and to the ceiling, so we have 3 separate classrooms that are as good as can be. I'm not going to say if someone yells in the room next door, you can probably hear it in this building, but it needs to be full walls and insulated. And like I mentioned, that the STEM or STEAM. These are drawings, again, back behind us. There's renderings of trying to put some pictures to what is actually being touched on. And again, for me to, I'd say we can take time later, but it color codes. So, and just purple, and this is at the elementary, heavy remodeling. So these preschool classrooms, putting full walls, insulating, considered heavy. The old office area, that would be what they consider heavy remodel. And I apologize for here. This was teal. It is new construction, so it's visuals, and these are around. We have 2 sets. I think you have 1 set going on, and so they're going to be around. Love people to look at them, but it's more of a visual of what's being done. Medium remodeling. All the rooms getting new lights. We didn't put that on a diagram. I mean, any class, most of the classrooms, this is one of the rare that has LEDs in, but most of the classrooms don't. So I mean, that's not signified on here. But elevator is right in, where is it? I think it's in, maybe I'm wrong. Where was it? Oh, right here. Elevator addition is considered their heavy remodel. Bathrooms being updated. And again, I'll just be honest, I assume some of the round wash basins, I don't know what you can call them. They're not an individual thing. I'm guessing they're original. And again, that's a good sign. Things have been upkept. Things last a lot longer. But that whole area needs some remodel and update. Same thing with the high school. There's a rendering, similar type diagram. The dashed line here, this whole area would be the steam to hot water conversion. It does not 100% include. It's not completely the whole building. We haven't got there. This would take care of a majority, first and second floor. Same thing down in the pool. You can see that kind of a orangish yellowish. Again, that's the ventilation and air exchange down there. And then, like I say, the bathroom's a heavy remodel, kind of the, taking out the glass on the cafeteria, heavy remodel. And then there's a copy room down there. What else is in there? The booster area and student lounge would be remodeled as part of that. And that's the kind of 2 area there. This is just a rendering. This is the idea of the high bay area off the shop. And again, it's just it's a photo image. It's not perfect. In essence, there would be, I think, called a garage door coming out of the metal shop as well as the wood shop. And then obviously one on the far end or maybe both ends to get things in and out. And then it would be a work area for bigger projects. Again, it's about the length of a vehicle. That street is still going to be back there, and so that's the conceptual idea. This is kind of the idea in the elementary office area, what we call a steam room. Again, it's open space. It's not desks and rows. It's going to be some storage area. It's going to be area that they can be up and moving and be active. And again, it's just a photo render of kind of the concept and idea. Question 1. Okay, first of all, question 1 has to pass before we'll talk about a question 2. But the recommendation from the committee, in which the board accepted, is what we just talked about. And if you read the language, it's small. It's the legal language of here's what's going to be covered. Okay, and it's just what was explained. I'm sure I left a little something off somewhere. And by voting yes, ballot question 1, you are voting to increase your taxes. Okay, and that has to legally be on there. Question 2, the group felt, and again I'm speaking of this and I shouldn't speak for the community group, but I'm kind of in that position, felt there were some needs that we could hit some more people and they thought people would support one. Now the survey said 14 million, so that is where they came in. The second question would go above that. Question 2, in order for question 2 to pass, question 1 has to pass. Okay. Question 2, they wanted to hit some of the groups with some other things going into extracurricular area. Okay, locker rooms for multi-use, meaning football, baseball, softball, and hockey. There would be a new set of locker rooms based, I'm going to say off this side, if you can imagine how we're sitting, opposite of the parking lot in Bronco Arena. There'd be boys and girls locker rooms, or 2 sets of locker rooms built there. There would be doors from the outside as well as doors on the inside. And that is how baseball and softball would use them. Football would use them in the fall. And then in the winter, they would be for boys and girls hockey.
And storage.
And storage. There is storage in there as well for their equipment. Also, then you go to sports stadium. It would be to, I'm going to say, it's not tuck pointing. That's a different, it's like a cement building, but there's some upgrades that are needed there. The bathrooms and the locker rooms over there are in need of upgrade, not just with the electric and the water. If you went in to use the bathroom, they're in tough shape. And just being honest, it is what it is. That would be remodeled, as well as a new service for power. There is the booster area, as well as we have issues when too much stuff is running inside the locker room and areas, so there'd be an electrical upgrade. That comes in roughly $4.5 million. And again, that's the legal question. Again, by voting yes, voting to an increase in taxes. But again, question 2. I mean, if someone votes no on question 1, I guess I should think about this. Question 1 has to pass before question 2.
So you can vote yes for 1 and no for 2, or yes for both.
But if you vote no and then yes, that still count as a yes, or is that? I don't honestly know.
No, because you have to vote yes.
Okay, so if you vote no for question 1, question 2 is irrelevant then on your vote. And it's the way it is. Here's that where roughly, and again, I'm going to show you a website. You can go in and put a $250,000, $300,000. You can put a business in, whatever. There's a tax calculator that Ellers provide, right? That is a financial group that works with the district. Question 1, roughly, and it's roughly $160,000 house is the average. It's $8 a month. Question 2, If that was to pass, it'd be $3 a month again on that roughly $160,000 or $161,000 home.
So $11.
$11 total.
When I talked to the city council, I likened it to a fancy cup of coffee.
Yeah,
So 1 cup of coffee a month versus for the kids.
Or what's the one, three plus gallons, 4 gallons of gas.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
there's different ways that the reality. So,
Kevin, are these assuming which county net capacity, I assume?
yeah, it comes from, like I say, Ellers is the one like when we do our, and I don't know if they work with the city and county or not, but that's who works with schools. So anytime we have tax, even when we put our levy, what's this going to do to us? They're the ones that do our calculations.
It's the school district, Emma. Any house in the
Yeah, I
school
guess you're
district.
beyond the.
Correct. And one question that's come up to me several times is who pays on a bond referendum? Okay, anyone in the school district pays on a bond referendum. Operating levy, if we were asking for money on an operating levy, that is not, then the rec doesn't pay on it. Okay, again, the seasonal rec don't get a vote either time. It's just the way it is, not my rules. But on a referendum for structure, everyone pays. Okay, so just a piece. One thing, can you pull up the school website? And again, everyone has a different on this, and this will be going out there as a QR code. People that like doing that, they'll pull there's a referendum site up. Do you want to just? I'm just throwing out all this information that we talked about is on there. There's a frequently asked questions that has, I can't say everything, it has quite a few things that we've got. One question that came up, you know, if this was passed, when would it start? Well, we already talked about that. That's in there, you know. There's, yeah, you can see, how do we get here? Why is the facility referendum needed? Why now? You know, and again, they're just questions that people are filling out. And so, it's a good place to go for some information. Not going to say it's the end all be all. Do you want to show the tax? Up on top, there's the investment tab, if that's the right way to go. If you scroll down again, what we just showed you is there, but there is a tax calculator button. And again, whether it's personal property, if you scroll down, personal property, business, ag, whatever, put the number in, calculate, and it'll give you, you know, roughly the estimated, best of their ability, because obviously things change. The tax capacity isn't stagnant or steady, but to the best of the ability right now, that's what it would be. And again, it's like I say, we'll keep adding anything we do. I'm sure, I'm guessing the videos are going to go on there, mailings, things that get put out. It has explanation of what we just talked about. Questions? Because I've just rambled and rambled. Anything? Because, and again, most likely if someone has a question, someone else in here has a question. And again, and I throw it out because we've talked about it several times. You know, so those of you that hear, did I miss anything? Anything
You did a good job.
Yeah.
So your facility and space needs, are those assuming stagnant, comparable enrollment numbers to current, or are they anticipating increases or decreases?
Good question. Our enrollment, for the most part, is decreasing. I mean, and the projection long term, it's not drastic where we're losing 50, 60 kids a year. But I mean, if you look out 5 to 10 years, it is. We did just get a bubble up. And again, and not politically, but the closing of Indus, we gained 31 students, I think, the net. Okay, not to say we didn't lose some, but the net game. Otherwise, we're losing probably 10 kids, 15 kids a year based on that outgoing to the incoming. And yeah, that's part of, you know, most of these upgrades. Like I said, the elementary is packed right now. The high school is pretty packed. There's a few spaces that are available, but not a lot. I hate to say it, there's been more, I'm going to say earlier at the board meeting, mental health groups coming in using spaces that are needs that maybe weren't offered here years ago. Okay, so yes, it is. I mean, we're not going to have a half-empty building anytime unless something drastic happens, and so the space is needed. Like, oh, I missed the sewer upgrade. 30% of our sewer in this building is part of the infrastructure that has to be replaced. Can't tell you why certain areas it's shot. I mean, it's rusted and it's in bad shape. 70% is in, there is a picture in
I
one.
showed it at the
Okay,
city
yeah.
council, yeah. It's
Yeah, that's a big one to forget, sorry, but that's a need that has to be, again, it doesn't matter, if we lose a few kids or not, that needs to be fixed. And again, we've had some, say, minor breaks and things that we've been able to fix, but to major overhaul, we need some help. So I don't know if that answers, but yeah.
And Emma, to that point too, we're also pursuing some different ways to approach people. We've got about 200 kids in the district that don't go to school here.
Well, that was my next.
Yep, I figured it was. And so we are looking to, there's confidentiality issues, so we can't just get a list of who those kids are. So it's kind of, do you put a post on Facebook and say, hey, contact me? We're not quite sure how to approach it yet, but it is here, it's in the forefront of our minds.
In my mind, I'm thinking you're leaving money on the table.
Absolutely.
For long-term maintenance.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily
And to be honest, if we got all 200 back, it would be a great problem to have. I don't know if you'd be able to house them all right now. The elementary would run into some issues. I mean, you'd probably end up bringing but again, it would be the good
That's
problem.
a good problem, I'll take it.
Someone will deal with it then. Other question, that's perfect.
What's your contingency plan?
If it doesn't go, it is, well, two things. One, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing now. We have projects going this summer, and we have projects for the next 10 years technically. I can't speak whether the group would reconvene and why did it fit, look into, but theoretically, like with the sewer, I mean, we're plugging away at what we can in the pieces that need to be with, say, with other pieces, doing what we can. Roughly, we have $600,000 a year that's put into facilities, okay? There's something that's called long-term facility maintenance money that we get $350,000 for. There's deferred maintenance, another pot of money that comes in. That money is used every year, okay? It can't be used on salaries, okay? It has to be used on your facilities. So that money is being used. But unfortunately, we don't have a plan, 5 years down, I mean, at some point, we're gonna need some help. I mean, we can probably get by, don't get me wrong. And you probably don't want me to say this, but we can get by for 10 years. We'll keep plugging away, hopefully not a major, the heating system will keep going. It's inefficient, we're replacing a lot of traps, we're doing different things. But eventually, there's gonna be, we can't keep up at some point. And that's the honest answer. Again, but I don't want to, cry wolf. That's not the, piece that if you don't, here's the hostage situation.
Right.
No, school.
We're trying to address it before it becomes an emergency.
And before other issues get added onto it
Right.
as well.
And the cost goes up every
Cost
year.
goes up every year, The cost of doing all the work goes up every year.
No, I'll throw it out. Someone asked that. There was a group that met earlier. I'm leaving the district. Again, I just want it up front. All I can do is present information. I can't tell you if I, am for or against it. Okay? Outside here, the board, other employees can, superintendent can't. All I can do is present information. I am going to be a taxpayer in this district. Okay? And I'm throwing it out there. Even though I'm leaving, I'm going to be a taxpayer in this district for long term. So, yeah.
Okay. You're saying the annual tax increase is $11 per month per house. Do you have a number for the annual carrying charge for this new debt?
So that includes that covers our payment.
Okay, so what's the annual payment then?
The annual payment, help me out, it's passed over 20 years, okay, so I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, so long and the short, unlike your mortgage, it depends on how they ultimately structure it. We don't have that information handy. We can reach out to elders and get that specific information.
But you knew it's $11 a house.
On the average home, correct.
Okay, so 11 times how many houses? Times how many?
Great question. I'm not with elders.
Oh.
We can get there is a payment schedule, because that's what they do, is they take and look out over, the bond is for 20 years, okay? And so they've taken it, and it's estimated, our declining county enrollment, all that stuff is somehow figured in. And again, it's not complete science, but that's their business. And that's where that comes out. Again, if you have a $250,000 house, it's more than $11 a month. That's where that calculator.
Is it progressive? Like how much more?
Well, I mean, we can plug a number in if you want, you know, and same thing if you have an 80,000, I mean, it's however the tax base works. I'm not a tax, but like you say, that's the idea of pointing people to this, whether you're a business, whether you're personal, whether we don't have much very little in the county, but that pertained.
Right there at the top there where you were, residential property. No, down a little bit, right there.
There you go.
Yep.
So.
Put in like 200,000.
So for question one, monthly $10, 122 annually. So I mean, it's not exact division, but it's $10 a month. Question two is $5 a month. Total is 15. So I can't speak to, you know, jump to 400,000. Does it just, you know, do they keep doubling or? I can't answer. Other questions?
You know what the current monthly levy is for your current budget? Like how much of my current home property taxes on the average, right, currently go towards your budget?
I don't have.
Like am I currently at $10 a month, right, to the school? And so you're asking for double?
I honestly don't have, what I can tell you, and this is up front, the levies that you have, like you say, there's money for the elementary heating, ventilation, that is still going, okay? The arena for the bond, 2-point-something million, 5-6 years ago, that's in there. And then the other two are their operating costs for the pool and the arena. Those are all levied, that's the 4 total. Some of that, the operating costs are ongoing forever, okay? And that value goes in, that's in legislation. The other two do go up. Someone asked, you know, originally the arena was built on that. Are you still paying on that? No, that's gone. Okay, same with the school 60 years ago, I'm sure was built on motor. That's gone. But there have been other operating, there is an operating levy too. And it's all included. I don't have, it's a good question.
Well, I think you can look on your tax statement.
Correct.
You can, if you look on your personal tax statement, or you could go to the county and get your tax statement, it breaks it down for you, right on there. Yeah, because I remember looking at mine.
Yeah, if you look at your assessment, like, you know, proposed assessment, it has.
Yeah, I see the number, I never actually looked at the.
Yeah, the breakdown of it.
Yeah, it's on there.
The other thing, and I'm just throwing it out there, you know, people, you know, is this the right time? Is it a good time? Taxes have went up the last couple of years, at least on my home. I mean, it is what it is, and they're, you know, I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
There's never a good
there's
time.
never a good time.
You know,
One of the preponderance of the operating revenue that the district receives comes from the state on a per pupil basis. So those dollars you'd never see on your property taxes. It would only be like if there was an additional operating referendum that had passed by the public. And I can't remember if you guys have an operating referendum.
Yeah.
So
Just said that's in there as well.
Yeah, so the operating referendum would be, but the rest of the operating funds that come from the state wouldn't show up there.
I mean,
If that
that's-
helps.
That's what matters to most of us, is what we're paying, and what the state's giving. We
Yeah.
do care, we
Right.
do as a business, but I mean.
You care about your bottom line.
Yeah. And like I say,
Makes sense.
It's a valid. Other thoughts, questions? Otherwise, we're going to end with this, with a short video, same type deal, 3-4, that will be coming out in a week or so. And then do a little hike if people want to walk around and look at a few of the things. Obviously, the sewer pipes, we're not getting down in the tunnel. There are pictures if you want to see, again, but we will kind of go down to the tech area, down to the pool, down the commons area, and that type of stuff. So
What's in the next round of funding? You said earlier it was 40 million, and this only is 18. What's in the next?
The next, I mean, again, there were things from another gym. Now, again, we have it. It's not a full-size gym if you're familiar with the elementary. It's been there. It's had a new floor updated 5 years ago. we're gonna operate with that same, I know it's the 3/4 size, there's no, you know, it's gonna keep going. You know, like I say, the facilities themselves will continue. I mean, even if this school will go on, but at some point, like I say, the improvements are gonna have to come somewhere.
But in 10 years, in 20 years?
Depends on, I think it depends on the.
When do people expect the next referendum?
I don't have that answer. I mean, for the most part, I mean, it's long term. The majors, again, the other, I'm going to take the sewer. The other 70% is not another 3 years down the road. It's going to last a while. I can't guarantee it's 10 years, 15 years. I mean, the 30% that's in bad shape, it was like, let's make sure we don't have to come back 2 years from now. Because I mean, that would be the worst thing. Like I said, we're including any of the parking lots that need. We'll step outside, you'll see a piece that's pretty bad. That's included in this because the last thing I want to do is get approval. And then parking lots are one you can do and not ask for approval. Just the way the law, that's not going to happen. Okay, and so I mean, I can't speak for the board, but I mean, I don't think there's any intention of a year. You know, again, it's the same voters we're coming back to. That the last one was, I'm going to say, somewhat spur of the moment when the arena got to the point that the pipes were leaking. You know, and there wasn't more of an ask. We haven't been back. You know, since that, I think, was that the last or was the heating and air?
I think it was the arena,
So, I mean, it's not a direct answer, but I don't have an answer for you, other than I think...
There's no plan.
There's no plan, and for the most part, the facilities are, you know, the roofs are in good shape. We have a plan. Again, we're going to keep spending, the money that we have to keep things up, and that'll keep going, whether we do this or not.
And so that long-term facility plan identified, I believe it was around $47 million of needs and then some wants. The only items that were approved by the board that were recommended by that community task force were this 13.95 plus the question 2 because they wanted to provide an option to the public. But there are no plans to move forward with anything other than what the board has agreed to at this point. There's just not. Because likely there might not be support for anything other than what has been approved thus far.
You want to hit the second video? Did you do the tour first? So just to speak again, all the hallways have the ceiling replaced in the LED light. Majority of the classrooms don't. So that's that. Coming in the entryway, the 2 major bathrooms, main bathrooms that are used at lower level, not only for activities but during the day. This area would be redesigned. The newer schools are actually going to individual restrooms, good, bad, or indifferent, be it here as well as in the locker rooms, okay? So that would be part of the upgrade. There would be, and again, I don't have a set number, 10, 12 individual bathrooms, and then you come out to a common washing area. And to be honest with you, less issues. And again, that's what the results show. Because for the most part, when a boy or girl walks in that bathroom, unless we're in there isn't supervision. When they individually go in, the commons area is supervised. Okay, it can be, and so that's where they say there's less issue. Same in the locker rooms when we get to that point, those being updated. It's just a better. There's some kids that don't like to shower in front of others. I'm just being honest, and that's the way they'd be individual shower areas, and they'd come out, they'd do their hair, we do our hair and some of that stuff out in a general area. There'd be, area for discussion, or coaching and stuff like that for athletics, but that's what they're moving to. Going down, again, there are things, flooring, you can see flooring is needing some repair. That's part of our long-term facility, and we will putz away, if you will, that's not part of the referendum, it's not the immediate need, okay? Obviously, like we talk about the lowest sewer lines, and roughly 30% are being replaced. We're just going to keep going down, like I say. So the bathroom area would be remodeled. Would be gone. Yeah, this would be gone, to be part of the bathroom area. And then as we go forward, the lounge would be changed to junior, senior lounge, exactly where it would fall, would change. Without spending a ton of time, for the most part, this would all be opened up now,
Okay, this would all be gone. The nook area would become like the booster area, concession area, okay, with some storage. This room off to the edge is storage right now. And like I said, this would become it's not exactly as a lot of the new schools where you walk in and it's all wide open. It's as close as we can get to that design with keeping the restrooms in the same area and then open it up. So it'd be used during, like I say, volleyball games, basketball games, and that type of stuff, instead of having everyone standing in the lobby type deal. It would be an open area.
It's really nice if you go to Little Fork, because there is no wall like this, so everybody does spill out from the volleyball and basketball games, and they hang out, the kids do, in the common area. I knew Tom was going to show off the boilers.
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, they're big old boilers. There's two of them that are actually bigger than what we need, but they're in here. There's no reason to get rid of. For the most part, one provides our enough heat. The other is backup. They do run both of them. It's been well maintained. There have been some upgrades that have been done. Again, a pay-as-you-go type deal, and so it's just taking them to the next level as far as switching from the high-pressure steam to what we call plain hot water. And it's not plain; there are chemicals in it, but they're unbelievable. The shape they're in for the age they're in. Now that being said, you bought new boilers, they're not built how they are nowadays. And I hate to say that, you did replace them. So it's using what we have. The metal shop goes, the equipment in here, from what I'm told, I'm not an expert, is good equipment. It's in good shape. Like I talked to you, the ventilation, that is part of the summer project being done right now. It needs an upgrade. It's not performing as much as it should, so that's one of these pay-as-you-go things we're doing. But the equipment is adequate. It's been good. As we walk to the back here, this is for the most part. Welding, they can do a small project. They can pucks away back there. Things like this, the computer plasma cutter, taking up space that was used in the past. We got some metal lathes they're using, eating up some of what we call the classroom area in here. There isn't much. They've done some good projects over the years, but they're running out of space. And so that's the idea of, we say, enlarging the doors, going out this door, we'll step out and we go into the wood shop. But for the most part, it would run from this room down to the end of the wood shop and out roughly the size of a car, and then keep the street there. So that would be the high bay. I can't answer exactly how high, if it's 16 feet, 18 feet, something I just thought of, I should know. But it's a high bay area. So that's the idea for projects, bigger projects, and it's a valid, I hate to say it, because I feel kind of bad. 10, 15 years ago, everyone needs a 4-year degree, and that's not the push anymore. And it shouldn't have been the push then. It's just the trades has boomed, rightfully so, and even though we're getting smaller, we actually have pretty full classes right now in the trades area.
Well, this will allow them to collaborate.
Correct.
So that's huge.
Yeah, go ahead.
And pardon my ignorance from not being in this building so much, but so what you're saying is right now, like in order to have like an automotive class, they can't pull a vehicle in anywhere.
That's as big a door as in the wood shops the same way.
Yep.
And again, they've done some creative things as far as building a wall at a time inside over there, getting it outside, but you're really weather dependent. And one of the things, and a lot of people know, for many years, the district had a house program, building trades. And so most of the wood shop, not as far as making it, cabinets, the classes were going on site, doing the electrical, now we don't have that, so we're trying to replicate and do more here, whether it's building a fish house, they build some outhouses, they have a deal that they mock and do some plumbing and electrical, but it's limited. And even that, it's not going to solve every piece, but it'll at least allow opportunity. And right now, like I say, we're very fortunate with the machines we have. We have good stuff. It's just going to do a little more, allow more opportunity. And we'll jump the room next door as a wood shop, and again, it's going to be the same thing for the most part. Again, not to say there isn't a piece of machinery we couldn't have or something better, but the stuff we have, they say is good, and we're happy and it's going to last. And
yeah, we do replace. We had a welder go down. We had to take care of. That's the pay-as-you-go type deal. The wood shop is well laid out. There's plenty of room for individual learning projects, smaller projects. Over in the far corner, squeezed in, thanks to the help of the Falls Ed Foundation, and I think there's another donor. There's a computer-aided, we call it a router CNC machine. Some awesome things coming out. A lot of the old tools, they're awesome. Okay, they're good, they're kept up. Again, pretty limited on space when you start. Right here's what we have and that's where the ask. And I don't know if everyone conceptually is okay or not, but for the most part, the length of the vehicle and then back the length of the shop area is for the most part, the conceptual plan. And so, like say, the street would stay here, we would lose the, I don't know, 10 cars, whatever, but that's where that addition would go. And again, the pool area itself, in good shape. The mechanical down below, for the most part, in good shape. We have redone LED lighting in here. The biggest problem is the leaching going out, okay? And again, yeah, it's going to be humid in a pool for the most part, but it is worse than it should be. And it comes from no dehumidification and the lack of air exchange. And so the recommendation over time, and again, I can't tell you if it's going to be 20 years that the major effect, if it continues, 10 years, what, it's hard on the walls and the infrastructure. So that would be the major change. Again, the facility itself, I want to say, is in great shape and should be a pride of the community. It is the only pool, okay? So it is used quite a bit. It's getting used quite a bit now, actually, by Canadians for the last year. Most of the year, I don't know how much their pool's been closed, and Beth could speak more to it, but every meeting they have a large number, so that's good. Not just, as well as our own. So, are there any questions? Otherwise, we'll kind of go in and go back down towards the lobby, and that we're going to jump out into the one parking lot and just show you, again, the brick itself is not horrible. There's some cracking, some expansion joints that need to work, and looking at the windows, they need to be pulped. But that's kind of the end. If someone wants to go look at some individual classrooms, we can, but there's not a ton other than the lighting being done in each classroom. Like I said. For the most part, like I say, I don't have a plan of going elsewhere. I extend the invitation, whether you have additional questions as time goes on. I won't be here long term, but I will volunteer. Ask either Beth, myself, someone in the district board, or get answers. Because odds are if someone has a question, there's others out there. Best ask is, like I said, the website has a lot of information. July 15th, we're doing the same thing at 7 o'clock. Elementary, that's where the board meeting will be that night. If people want to come and do a similar deal there, do a tour of that building. Unfortunately, there is stuff being cleaned. I mean, it's just the summer mode, but we will look at the preschool rooms. We'll look at, where the new office would be. We'll look at, the new STEM area, where the elevator would be, that type of thing. But and lastly, I appreciate, or we appreciate the time. If we can present any groups, like I say, we'd love to get the information out there. That's all we can do is present information and ask questions, or answer questions. I can ask questions. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.